what I am learning is to just show up anyway. So I'm experiencing this almost every day. Not only there's lots of different ways I'm experiencing it. This is one of them. I just started teaching again, indoor cycling, and it's been a passion of mine for a few years now. And stepping back into this environment, which is not a very spiritual environment, it's definitely a energetic environment. But there's all these stories in my mind about limiting myself, about not being too much, about not saying too much, about not really saying the things that I want to say. And it was really cool to watch and observe the process of my 2 classes this morning. I came in feeling this like physical heaviness, and I didn't really even know what it was about. But then as soon as I started teaching, I observed myself like wanting to contain, but I had connected that morning with a higher self meditation, and connected with my higher self, and like my higher self is just me, like fully, authentically, not holding back me. And so that I could feel that wanting to come up and out in my classes. And in my first class, I really talked about that. There was literally a moment at the end of my class where I said out loud, like, I basically just talked through like the process I was going through, which was I had things I wanted to say about, what was channeling through me at that time. I was really talking about like following your dreams and following your heart this morning. And so there were things that I wanted to say about that. But I literally like said out loud, there's this fear in my mind that my mind thinks like, you all don't want to hear this. Like, you all like think this is too much, think this is annoying. And I was talking a lot about just like the power of the mind, and how this fear, we can't get away from it, unfortunately. Like, it's always going to be there. We just have to show up as ourselves anyways, and not let it stop us from being who we are and saying what we want to say and sharing our stories. I've been hearing that and feeling that a lot. Like, there's this desire to share my story. Stories. And it's really interesting. I can actually observe in this whole process, I've been observing that I'm projecting a lot. And I observe often when other people are telling stories and like talking about themselves a lot, I get very judgmental. And I think like, you're talking about yourself too much. And it's interesting because it's like, I enjoy listening to them, but it's completely a projection. It's completely, I can see how it's like all this story around like limiting myself from sharing my stories, and sharing what I have to say. And so it's just overcoming that by just saying it regardless, and observing like how then it begins to flow. Because then after my first class, I could feel this energy kind of flowing, and I just kept moving with it. Like, in between classes, part of me wanted to go and kind of like stand still, but then another part of me wanted to just keep dancing and like keep the energy going. So I did that. And then my second class just like flowed, and I didn't necessarily have to like talk myself through saying what I wanted to say. I was just already in that flow, so I just kept saying what I wanted to say, and it felt really good, and people really received it. And I was in a headspace where I didn't really care if they did or not, but they did. And this is just an example, but it's like, I feel that this is this creative process that a lot of us find ourselves in. Is we have the desire, we feel the pull, there will always be that mental resistance, and just however you get through it, maybe like however you just show up, regardless. Just hit record, open your mouth, say the words, say the things, be vulnerable, be yourself, let your light shine in whatever way it's meant to, and just let it flow, because these blockages keep it from flowing, and it takes conscious activation and effort to allow it to be free, and then it can continue to flow, until we reach another block, and then, again, consciously removing that and letting it flow, letting it flow, letting it flow. All right, that's what I have to share.